Darren
Nice.
Drader, and this is our Thursday night D&D game, Session 0. I'm going to go ahead and go around real quick and introduce us. We are still expecting one more person, so if and when he shows up, we'll just add him into the stream and bring him in at that time. So we'll go ahead and start with Doug. Doug, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where we can find you online and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. First off, thanks for the invitation, Darren. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about it. My name is Doug Vista Guy on YouTube and on a couple other places like BGG, Board Game Geek. You can find me there. I am a game designer. I haven't done a lot of design lately, but I used to. And I also am a YouTuber where I run a YouTube that demonstrates board game playthroughs and new games that are coming out. You can find me by my name, just Doug Mystic Eye or Doug Herring. Either one is fine. And I'm also an avid role player, so I'm excited about getting into some D&D. So thanks, Darren. My pronouns are he/him.
All right, very cool. Kat, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
I'm Kat. There's nothing that important about me. I usually go by my gamer tag, sometimes online on different channels. Kintori, Kyntori. You really can't find me on them though. I'm pretty busy. I'm a parent, so I'm busy a lot. If you do want to find me in person, in March I'll be at GaryCon and volunteering at Founders and Legends the weekend before. And one of those still has tickets available, so please check out foundersandlegends.com if you want to come and meet me. Yeah.
All right, very cool. And just mentioning this for those who are not part of the stream here, we met at GaryCon.
Mm-hmm.
It was very cool, very fun convention. If you've never been, I highly recommend going and checking it out. It's worth the travel. It's really a good time. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan. I'm a forensic accountant from Erie, Pennsylvania. I have lots of fun at my job. I work on divorce cases like all day, so I see all craziness and chaos all week long. So role-playing games are a great diversion for me personally. So I've been an avid lover of D&D since I was about 12 in 1982. Haven't played as much as I would like to, but I've always kind of kept my interest in it and dabbled in games over the years. Recently kind of got back into it the last several years. So looking forward to having some fun. So thanks, Darren, for inviting us.
Cool. Glad to have everybody. And I'm Darren Drader. I am a full-time freelance role-playing game designer. So I work for various publishers. They need stuff written up. Lately, it's been a lot of monsters. And I do it. So a lot of the work I've been doing has been for Legendary Games. And, you know, they pretty regularly come out with like monster supplements, either for 5th edition or for Pathfinder. And there's a lot of conversion, you know, between 5th edition and Pathfinder. So I have the fun of doing those. I also have my own very small role-playing game publishing company called Darren Drader Designs. You can find that under Darren Drader Designs on DriveThruRPG. In addition to that, I also run a Fallout game on Saturday nights. You can find the video from it up on YouTube. And you can watch it on Cybernation Uncensored. However, that game is coming to an end in about a week. So if you're looking for it, you probably won't find it except in the reruns. So with that said, that's who I am. And let's go ahead and get started. I've got a cat in my lap. See if he gets lost this time. So the plan is that we're going to be running some 5th edition D&D. And I am really wanting to go kind of, I mean, obviously 5th edition, but kind of old school with it. You know, because I kind of miss the way that we used to do things, you know?
Yeah, I loved all those old school modules. I didn't get to play a lot of them, but they sure did look cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very cool. Yeah.
So I'm all about the using black and white maps as opposed to, you know, all these neat full color ones. And, you know, maybe the games won't have all the polish and shine that some people's will have, but the idea is to kind of simulate the kind of the fun of sitting around a table and using your imagination rather than having these like super expensive props. So,
That's right.
and I could take these maps, frankly, I could take these maps to Incarnate and recreate them, make them full color and neat and everything. But, did you ever have those? Did you ever have the mats where you took your vis-a-vis pens and,
Yeah.
kind of
And
drew
you're
out?
right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's kind of what we're going for. That's the level of of what we're going for. So to that end, I'm kind of looking at various games that I've had for a long time. Either some really early D&D modules, maybe some early Dungeon Magazine adventures. Like doing a series of them, just kind of string them together into a campaign. Or there's another option, which I wanted to put in front of the group, which is potentially doing Goodman Games adaptation of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Keeping in mind, of course, that if we do this, we're going to have to commit up to 2 years of gameplay to run through the entire thing.
That
So
sounds fantastic to me.
Yes.
As long as my personal life stays cool, like
Yeah.
doesn't
First, it makes it
interfere
pretty
with my
good.
gaming.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful, actually.
Well, ever since I got it as a gift, I've been really wanting to run it. And for a while, I was doing the paid DM thing, and then I realized just how difficult it was to try to keep that going. So I'd be happy to trot this thing out and get us going on that. Has anybody ever actually played the Temple of Elemental Evil, though?
No.
But the old one, I barely remember it, Darren. So I remember little bits and pieces.
So you're not going to remember, oh, yeah, look in the corner and,
Yeah.
push the bricks and that'll, yeah, okay. All right. So have you guys come up with any character concepts?
I have come up with a character. I've actually have two. My preference would be to play an elf ranger. And I don't know if there's any other rangers. Typically, there's not a lot of rangers I've found in D&D, but if my second backup choice is a dwarven fighter, so I want to have backstories for both in case.
Okay.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
I had two concepts as well. The first one is a spinoff of an old character that I loved. I'd love to see reincarnated. Basically a human female noble who is a warlock who will then eventually multi-class into a rogue as well.
Oh, good. Yes, I was hoping somebody else would be the magic user.
Well, I don't know if warlocks count. They're pseudo magic users. They could do some things, but and then the other one is actually a magic user would be a gnome wild magic sorcerer.
Love it.
I figured I'd go either healer, cleric, or some sort of rogue or thief. So I feel like I'll have to go support.
So,
Or else we'll probably all die. Hey.
well,
We
I
don't
mean,
want to die, day one.
the ranger can provide the muscle for the party.
That's fair. Yep.
Warlocks can too sometimes.
Yeah,
It
warlocks
depends.
can
Right?
So I've honestly never actually run somebody playing warlock,
Oh wow. Okay.
and I don't run
Are-
characters very often.
I mean, I could change that up. By the way, I'm not married to that, but whatever you need. If we want a straight up fighter, I could do that too. That was my other side. Maybe I'll just do a straight up fighter. I haven't done a straight fighter in a long, long time. But you got the dwarven fighter concept too, so that might be a good way to go.
Well, it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of overlap. So what's
No, that's
what's
good.
you guys
So
what's your guys' preferences?
Well-
Which one do you want to play?
I would prefer the elf ranger for my two characters.
I mean,
I think
ideal,
we're
I'd like
actually-
the warlock, but
I think we're actually only doing one character. So
Yeah.
okay, just making sure. But yeah, okay. So warlock.
if that's possible, if that's okay with your game, yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
The only restriction I put on this was no Dragonborn.
Yeah.
Right.
You really don't like Dragonborn.
I don't.
But
I don't think they
Who
should be
could blame
dwarf.
you?
Are tabaxis allowed?
What's that?
Are tabaxis allowed?
Cat people?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just curious.
I could probably be convinced.
Just curious. Like to know what my options all are.
I mean, in a perfect world, as far as I'm concerned, a party would not look like the cantina scene from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I kind of like seeing, I kind of like seeing humans, and I kind of like seeing, elves and dwarves. But at the same time, this is not my game. I'm not playing the characters, and you guys are free to make pretty much what you want,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk backgrounds then.
Okay. Well, I'll go first. Valen. This is kind of the background I was thinking about for Valen. He's a wood elf. And I guess if we're in the Forgotten Realms, it'd be maybe a Cormanthor area, a forest area, raised in the forest. He's relatively young, like about 30 years old for an elf, so that's pretty young for an elf. He had a pretty decent life living in the forest, minding his own business, kind of learning the ways of being an elf. And about 4 years ago, a drow slave hunting party raided his village in the middle of the night. And there's a party of about 20 drow with some goblin backup, a surprise attack. They killed most of the males in our tribe. And I managed to escape with my younger sister to the woods before we were injured, but we got away. However, most of the village was slaughtered, and they took as their slaves most of the women and children, including my mother. So, very horrible, traumatic experience. After they left, I was able to, go back. Like I said, most of our village was decimated. I was actually taken under the wing by a local human druid who kind of helped guide me for a while. Now, she was older, and she kind of helped me learn a little bit more about the ways of the world, and told me a little bit about the outside world, about some of the lands beyond what I've ever seen, because I've never ventured out of my forest area. So she gave me some insight as to the ways of the world. Her name was Li Xiaoling. She was a fairly, probably in her 60s, somewhat elderly, but very spry druid, and she taught me quite a bit over about 5 years, but what she knew, and gave me an appreciation of some other components that I hadn't really seen before. She taught me some martial arts. She was pretty proficient with martial arts. She taught me. We really concentrated on the bow and the sword and hand-to-hand combat. Unfortunately, because of her age, she did say that her time on this planet was limited, and she suggested that soon it would be time for me to kind of go out on my own, go beyond the forest, and I really do someday. I would like to gain enough skill and gain some assistance, some backup. I would love to go and try to rescue my mother and the rest of my village from the drow, if I could ever find out where they have been taken. But so I'm relatively, again, I love the forest. But I'm ready to go out into the world and learn new skills. And I despise the drow for what they've done, and the goblins and humanoids in general. I've basically fairly neutral alignment. However, I tend probably toward the good side of things, and I'm really would like to rescue my mother at some point someday. So I hope to be strong enough and find a nice party someday to find out where they have her and go and rescue her.
Cool. I like the idea of it being a young elf. Quite often, what you see with new characters is they've already had this big, incredibly epic background that,
Yeah.
and so you're sitting there going, well, you're going into level 1.
Yeah. I'm
But
pretty
you've
green.
already, you've already done all this stuff that, so
Yeah.
I think it's a very good background. Boy, if we're doing Temple of Elemental Evil, it's going to be a while before you're going to be freed up to go and try to
That's okay.
free them. But
Think
gives us
of
something
how
to work
skilled I'll
towards,
be.
right?
I'll be like, yeah.
Epic
hope-
level
yeah.
by the time you're after him.
Well, yeah. We'll have no problem with those drow.
Well, hey, in theory, this takes you up through level 8, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we should be able to go on after that and go to the Isle of Dread or something,
Yeah.
There you go.
Take on Wolf. Yeah.
All right, Kat, tell us about your character.
So my character, there is nothing that's really weird or strange about her backstory. She came from a family who loved her, had lots of siblings, like probably like a farm community or whatever. And she just got bored. She's just so bored that she went to go and seek adventure and discover the world because she was already too comfortable and decided she didn't want to just be that comfortable, like go and see things, do things, explore.
So
That's
she didn't want to
Big world
didn't
out
want to
there.
get a job, get married,
Yeah.
and have 2.5
Yep,
kids.
she saw that potential suitor and was like, yeah, no,
Not
I'm
happening.
too young for that. I need to go live a little. Yep. Maybe come back when I've lived a little if I decide that's not for me.
Makes sense.
Nice.
All right, Doug, what you got in mind?
Yeah. So Delilah Thorne of the House of Thorne. She's a young noble, probably in her early 20s, human. Very long black hair, very shockingly blue eyes, very charismatic. Her family is quite powerful, and they gain their power through pacts with evil entities. When they come of age in the family, they're automatically introduced to their patron, whoever will support them. When Delilah found out that they were demons and devils, she wanted to break from her family, but also didn't want to get rid of the power that she could access from being part of the family. So she's used the excuse of wandering out on her own with her patron to experience the world as a young noble and gain experience to come back to the family. Her plan is to take over her family and turn them away from the darker path, right, at some point. That's her mission. She's actually very good natured, but she comes across very pretentious and very noble. So she talks down to people, not on purpose. It's just her nature. And there's also an element where people think she's a little crazy because she also talks to herself and sometimes responds to something that's not there, because there is actually something there. It's her patron, but people don't know that. So they will maybe drawn to her because she's very noble and charismatic, and then start to realize she might be a little nuts. So, and her mission is to amass enough power to go back and change the path of her family's legacy.
Cool. And who was your patron?
I don't know yet, but he's a devil.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's going to be
Interesting.
some conflict there for her because she's going to be a good-natured individual.
Well, it kind of reminds me when I ran a character who was a cleric who worshipped Asmodeus, and I kept that fact from the party. The other players didn't even know that.
Oh,
So
wow.
just occasionally I'd behave in somewhat selfish ways, and eventually they figured it out. But anyway, I like it. I think that's really cool. So one thing we haven't really discussed is the setting, and we've got a couple of options there. One of which is, frankly, if we're going Temple of Elemental Evil to start with, it would either be Greyhawk or just we don't worry about the setting, because this is going to be our setting until we're done with that, until we're done with the game. Forgotten Realms has always been one of my favorite settings. I've run many games there. I enjoy it quite a bit. A third option would be my own personal setting, which I've been developing slowly over time and will eventually release into the wild. Actually, by eventually, parts of it are already out there in the form of adventures I've already published. but I'm actually looking to do some campaign setting products and put them up for sale in the next year or so. So that would be called a setting called Cobalt Kingdoms, which I would say is maybe a little more old school than Forgotten Realms, but not so much so as Greyhawk. So that's an option too. So do you guys have any preferences there or suggestions?
Your setting? I think that'd be cool.
I'm fine with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I could fit this in.
I was gonna say I feel like it's dealer's choice here.
Yeah.
Okay, then. All right, I'll have to figure out where to put you then. All right, very cool. Actually, I might be able to bring up a map of it. Let me see here. That's a corner of it. We want more in the corner. Maybe I'll worry about this next time. I'm just not seeing it. One other thing I could try. Go to Incarnate and show you the original. Sign in, log in, log in. Come on. Here we go. Here we are. And okay, so that is a map of the Cobalt Kingdoms, or at least a corner of it. I actually have a map of the entire world. I just haven't figured out everything that's going on. The main continent is called Androsa. Down here is Telosia. Telosia is ruled by dragons, which creates a bit of conflict because Androsia is not. I kind of modeled Androsia a little bit after the United States, not in terms of the actual layout, but in terms of what you're going to find. So this over here is a lot like the East Coast. This is a bit like the West Coast over here. And then down here we have Persethia, which is actually a bit like Egypt. So there's a lot of different things going on. There's a pretty good chance I'll be putting you over in this corner over here, frankly, just because it's the area that I know the most about. So,
Okay.
I love it.
So if that works for you,
Works for me.
very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, just wherever a noble house would come from, wherever that would be, that's where my character would have originated, near there.
I see some forests. So I'm good.
You got a couple of options here, which would make things kind of interesting. The kingdom of Chironid used to be the seat of the old Androsan Empire, and the Androsan Empire spanned the entire continent about 1,000 years ago, or for about 1,000 years. It's been no longer an empire for about 100 years. Basically, if you go to the kingdom of Chironid as as a noble from there, that would kind of make you sort of old Androsan blood. But on the other hand, that'd make it a little more difficult for you to escape, if you know what I mean. The Durillian Protectorate used to be its own area after the fall of the Androsan Empire, although it was conquered by the kingdom of Chironid, and then they left their one of their sons in charge. So he's a prince, and it is still a protectorate, although he's basically turned against his own family and said, no, we are our own kingdom, screw you. So that's an option.
That would be good inspiration for her.
Mhm.
So she wants to do the same thing with her family. So,
That's right.
And then going north a little bit further, there's the Kingdom of the Opulent Crown. They were one of those big important areas that were part of the Androsan Empire once upon a time, and are also vying to try to reunite the empire under their own rule, which sets them up at odds against the Kingdom of Chironid, and to a lesser extent the Druilin Protectorate. So between those three, there's a lot of deal making going on. There's a lot of people who are threatening to go to war with each other, so on and so forth. The politics there shift all the time. As long as we're also in here, you're going to notice that there's a kingdom here called Ligovia. Think the Vampire Realms. Yoreg is a kingdom run by orcs. And then there is the Abodaria Scablands, which is run by the Blight Witch from her little spire there. Fertile Fields are going to be an area which is less populated, but as far as you're going to find a lot of people who are just tending farms there, that sort of thing. They grow a lot of food, which goes throughout the area, but it's more of a frontier type area.
Where my character's probably from.
Cool.
Just too dull there.
Had to get out of there. It was too boring.
Had to get out.
And then if we head north a little bit further, we run into the Iron Realm of Lumithan, which is a very hilly area. There's a lot of mines there. And you've got basically all three of the major powers vying for land in that area because they want access to the mines. And Fort Bruce is the big important place there that kind of tries to keep the peace. And a lot of adventurers end up there. And so that's kind of the core of what's going on. And I'm kind of thinking that Temple of Elemental Evil has got to be somewhat near all this. So we're probably looking at the mountains up here is where it'll be situated.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
All right, so that's probably more than anybody else knows about my campaign setting at this point.
Sneak peek. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. All right, so moving on. It looks like, gosh, it's only been a half an hour. Looks like we're probably looking at a fairly short session today. The next time we'll actually have our session one. But one of the things we need to hit is safety stuff. Like, does anybody have anything that they do not want to come up in this game?
No.
I'm fine. I'm an open book.
Same.
Yeah, me too.
I find that most people are like that, but at the same time, there are some people who are just really, really particular, and I want to make sure I don't want to set anybody off. So
we appreciate that, but yeah, I'm good.
Cool, works for me. And I try to keep things pretty much PG-13 anyway. I'm, imagine Game of Thrones as an example of what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so the other thing that I was going to show you guys is the tabletop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let me put that on. Actually, let's, there we go. So this is tabletop. We won't be running Roll20 for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason I'm not really keen on Roll20 lately is because there's so many people using it that the servers are really loaded down, which means that, you try to roll the dice and you're sitting here waiting around for, 30 seconds, 45 seconds for the die to roll. And when we're talking about a game like D&D, it makes it very difficult to have a game that runs fast when you're being hindered by the tabletop that you're using. So the nice thing about Tabletop is it doesn't have the server load. It is under active development, and they do support this through a Patreon. I support the Patreon. I highly recommend everybody support the Patreon. I highly recommend people give this a shot, but not too many people, because then we'll have the same problem as Roll20.
Only the cool people are allowed to be on this one.
Yes, that's it exactly. So anyway, it's also just the way that the interface works. It makes it very easy to, zoom in, zoom out, that type of thing. But here's a really cool thing, and this is something that you can't do with Roll20. Or I guess you could if you worked on it enough. But here we're going to bring up Fenrite. Fenrite was a player character in my previous game, which is a pay-to-play. Now, here you can see his stats and everything. But he wants to go up to here and attack this ghast. So he's going to go to actions, and he's going to use his short sword. Boom. 24 to hit,
Nice.
7 piercing. Now, this is something you guys are going to have to, you're going to have to get familiar with this thing between sessions, hopefully, and understand how it works. Basically, you can kind of see over here on the left-hand side, you create this field, you put in short sword. This is, how you put that in there, short sword, colon, and then, you put the thing in there. You put the brackets and the 1d20 plus, whatever. And they've actually got some templates that you can use that'll help you do that. If you guys run into any problems getting this done, let me know. I'll help you. It's not very hard. But here's the other cool thing. I have been going through the monster manual and programming the monsters in as characters. Let's duplicate him too. So now we got 2 of them. So you click on him and we can do the same thing. Boom. 40 hit.
Oh, nice.
You probably missed. All right, we'll move this guy over. He's going to attack Fenrite too. He'll try to bite. 15 to hit. I bet that one's a hit. 8 piercing damage. And then I suspect with a bite, he might have to actually make a saving throw. But anyway, you get the idea. The idea is to automate this so that instead of sitting around and having to worry about our dice and putting them in, like with Roll20, you've got to actually bring up your dice interface and select your dice and how many and what your bonus is. And while you're sitting here doing that, it's literally taking you like 30 seconds to set up the die roll. Here it's just boom, there it is. And
That's awesome.
Hey, if you happen to have advantage, boom, boom, or disadvantage, boom, boom. That's it. So the idea is to make the game move fast, which will allow us to cover more territory and be more interesting for our audience.
So it'll only take us like 2.5 years to get through the module.
Right. You've got it. That's exactly it.
We'll blaze through it.
So anyway, that's our tabletop. And like I said, it will require a little bit of setup. So sometime between now and the next time we play, or I should say the first time we play, I'm going to ask you to put your character in there. And if it gets confusing, if you're not sure what you're doing, don't hesitate to ask me. I'll be happy to pick a time. We'll go in there and set it up, and it'll be good to go.
We are starting at like a square 0, right? Like we've got no experience. We're level 1.
Level 1.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So that pretty much concludes the things that I had planned for this. Does anybody have anything you guys want to discuss?
Are we rolling characters with dice?
Yeah.
Or are we doing standard array? How are we going to go about character creation?
Good question. That was going to be my question.
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked.
I happen to roll all 18s and everything.
I'm not a fan.
Trust me.
Exactly. I'm not a fan of rolling up your character. And the reason is simply that you might end up with a great character. You might end up with a loser of a character. And you might not be completely honest about what you rolled.
That never happens.
I had a guy, one of my friends from back in high school, and he came to the game. He's like, I've got a dwarf that I rolled up last night. And look, all 18s.
18-00 strength, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're not using him. So my preferences are either point buy or standard array. Either one of those are good with me.
Okay. And in Tableplot, where do you build your character in there? I have it open. I just I can see that I can pick portraits, but
so this is something that's going to actually require a little bit of setup for me for each of you.
okay.
What you do is I go into characters, and as you can see, I've set up a lot of monsters here as characters, so I can just bring them out, and then. But this is also where your character is going to live as well. Once I've got your character out there, I can give you control over your character, and then we kind of go from there. So basically, the answer to that is I will need to set them up for you, and then you can go in there and set up the rest of everything else. So and what you'll do is it's just like anything else. You start with your abilities, armor class, speed, initiative, so on and so forth, appearance. Most things are almost everything is handled through through your what you call it, what do you call them? I want to say your interface, but it's not your interface. It's your counter. So you'll set that up. You'll do your actions. You'll do your abilities, any special abilities that you have. And the idea behind this is simply that every character is going to pick up a new ability with every level. You can simply dump that text in here. So if we have any questions of how it works, then you can just go like this. Boom. Stench. Any creature that starts its turn within 5 feet, so on and so forth. So you can do that with your character as well. That way, if there's any questions like, how does this ability work in game? We can all look at it and make a quick ruling as opposed to having to get into the book and do that. So, like I said, I will get those set up for you between sessions, and then you can go in there and do the rest.
Okay.
So, all right. Any other questions?
Are there any backgrounds that are off limits?
I'd say no. I mean, I said no Dragonborn, and that
really doesn't like Dragonborn.
I really don't like Dragonborn.
Dragonborn.
I think they're fine as an idea for an optional class, like something you'd get with your splat books.
Yeah,
but pushing
it
on
old
us
school.
as
They
cores,
just don't. They don't seem like D&D characters to me. They just don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. They're too like.
It feels like
I don't know.
It's
you just would see them in a D&D world, Like
I think Yumi and Doug probably see things the same way, having gamed from about the same time. Which is that D&D is it's humans, elves, dwarves.
And I'm sorry, drow are pretty much evil, so
Yeah, and I feel like they've really been trying to push it in different directions lately, and it's kind of lost the Tolkien-ish feel to it that I always liked.
I don't like it when it gets
totally
too silly. Yeah, I don't like it when it gets too silly and I don't know.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
I watch some of the ones online, and I like, man, it's such a hodgepodge of weird characters. It's like I'm a pixie, this and that. I'm like, nothing's straightforward at all about it. It's like, would these beings really all be together? Would that really be a thing? It's like
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's like I said earlier, you know, it's like it starts looking like the cantina scene from Star Wars.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I want us to be like the the Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that's very much, you know, the kind of the feel that I'm wanting to shoot for. So I'm glad we're kind of all on the same page as far as that goes. Because frankly, if you guys were a group of younger players and you really wanted to do that, I wouldn't say no.
Right.
You know, but especially if it was a paid game.
Yeah.
Fortunately, this is not. So anyway, I think that kind of gives you an idea of where I'm coming from. You know, kind of aim old school a little bit, but not so old school that we cling to some of those stereotypes and beliefs that some old schoolers do that is problematic. We don't want that.
We're not gonna be grognards or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
You can be a grognard without being problematic.
Yeah.
The question is, the problem is that there's just such a large portion of problematic gamers that are part of the grognard group. Anyway.
Yeah. We just want to have fun.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, Richard didn't show, and I'm not sure why.
Richard?
Let me see if he ever messaged.
Maybe he thought it was the other Thursday.
He might have. He might have gotten the time wrong.
Yeah.
We are coming from a number of different
Time zones. Yeah.
Time zones. So that's a possibility. So yeah, didn't hear from him. Maybe we'll get him up to speed for next time. And it sounds like what is needed is a rogue, which is kind of what he was talking about.
I'm going to multi-class rogue. I am going to multi-class rogue, just so you know. It's going to be warlock rogue. Yeah, so I'll have some of that later on, like by third level or so.
Mm-hmm.
No, not that it matters. You can have more than one rogue doing different things, but
yeah, well, I mean, it is important though. You need somebody to find your traps and disarm them.
I mean, technically, someone else walking into one will find and disarm it. Usually,
that's right.
Like, just a thought. I mean, they might not live, but
just hire
technically,
some non-player characters and just like send them ahead of us. That's all.
The rogue is a scout, right?
Yeah, we'll hire that guy.
Send him the scout.
What you do is you hire about 3 scouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look what happened to Joe. You want me up there now?
After you lose 3 scouts, you should probably quit adventuring.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, one of my friends back in high school, he started a game with 20 first level characters going into about a 5th level dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that they're all completely disposable. So at one point he had a rope around one of them and they were like letting him down the side of a like a cliffside to see if there's a trap down there. And when he didn't come back up, they grabbed another guy and put him on the rope. And when you got 20 characters, you have a few to burn.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever played Dungeon Crawl Classics, but I just played that a couple weeks ago with our
the 0 level one.
Yeah, we have like we
wow.
had like all these. We just they all like you have like so many characters and you hope that at least one of them survive. Like you know, it was pretty fun. So it's like we survived. Well, one of our characters survived. It was pretty interesting though.
We played and I ran a couple sessions of Morkborg. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
I've heard about it. Yeah.
It's a fun game, but your characters are going to die. It's just the whole setting and everything, the way it's set up. You're not going to live. You have like some of the characters you roll up have one hit point, and so you're not going to make it. But that's part of the fun of it, you know.
That's
now so Morkborg.
I
I've heard a little bit about this, and I started hearing about it when WotC tried to pull the OGL.
Oh yeah, that's when I heard about it.
Isn't this kind of loosely based on 5e? Doesn't it have a lot of things like advantage, disadvantage?
No, it's really different. I actually played a game that used the Morkborg system for like I think it was Demon Dog at GaryCon last year because I always like to find some new systems to play that I haven't played before. it's so different. But it is very easy to get injured very severely.
Very badly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
it does have like it does have a mix of 5e, a little bit, a few things, because you can get advantage in the game. There's ways to do that, but
Mhm.
it also feels very old school. You're rolling against a to hit target. You're gonna miss more than you hit, and you're gonna die. Someone's gonna die. It just feels like low level characters.
Mhm.
And the whole setting is designed around that concept that the world is coming to an end anyway at some point in the setting. So your demise is imminent, which makes it kind of interesting.
It adds brutality.
Very brutal game. Very brutal
Yep.
game. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the reason I even heard about it in the first place is because, like I said, WotC was going to pull the OGL,
Mhm.
and one of the creators that I follow is a guy who goes by DM Dave.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I'm one
and
of his patrons, yeah,
what was that?
I'm one of his patrons. Yeah, I
Okay, yeah,
subscribe to his stuff. Yeah, so he puts out so much amazing stuff. I mean,
yes, he
holy
does.
crap. It's like
He makes me jealous, and I'm a full-time freelancer. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how he can come up.
I download from him. I'm like, how do you find time in the 24 hours to do this? It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Magic.
So
Magic.
yeah, I mean, when they decided to pull the OGL, he decided that he was going to switch to Mork Board.
I remember that. Yeah,
But isn't stuff he's doing still kind of 5e compatible a little bit?
I thought he decided, since they kind of resolved that issue, that he was just going to stick with 5th edition. But
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think he was thinking about going to that if WotC, that whole debacle did get resolved. That's what he was going to go to. But since it got resolved, I think he decided to stick with a 5th edition compatible. But
that was kind of my thought as well, because my thought was, well, actually, I started developing Project Phoenix, which you may or may not have heard of. I've got a version of it which is up. It's not a complete game yet, but I've got a version up that is everything that is completed as of right now is released under the Creative Commons license, and you can get that for free from Darren Drader Designs on DriveThruRPG. And frankly, it does owe a lot to 5e without actually being 5e. Much like Tales of the Valiant, which I'm sure you have heard of.
I said I backed that one too.
I was going to back that one, but as we know, things sometimes go bump as a freelancer. So things went bump, and I couldn't back it.
The last one I backed was the Shadow Dark RPG. That looked like a good one.
Interesting.
Felt
looks
old school.
Yeah.
I think the last one I backed was Three Torches Down, I think is what it's called, which is another one which owes a lot to 5e.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this. You can protect exact text, but you can't protect game mechanics by copyright law. So that's why we're suddenly seeing a lot of 5e clones. Oh, WotC, you want to pull the OGL? Well, there's going to be a lot of options now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing, that whole couple months. Did you used to work for Wizards, or who did you work for?
I worked for Wizards of the Coast from 2000 to 2004. I was doing customer service throughout the entire thing, but then I was also freelancing basically from 2002 to 2004, and then after for quite a while. I started there in the Star Wars fan club, which they were doing at the time.
Yep.
Nice.
And then they phased out the Star Wars fan club, and they merged it with customer service, and that was when they hired us on as actual employees. And I stuck around for a couple of years after that. And that was also the time when they were kind of doing rolling layoffs, and a lot of people were leaving not of their choice, which is kind of when I decided, I feel like I'm developing an ulcer here. I need to leave. So
yeah, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. So no, I still think that I think WotC employers are great. I think 5th edition is a great game.
Yeah, I really like the mechanics of it. Yeah, it's pretty.
It is very accessible.
Yeah, it's easy to follow. It's not too difficult, not too technical.
Yeah, it gets away from 3.5, which was a fun game, but
Mechanics heavy.
way too
Crunchy.
clunky.
Crunchy.
Way too, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Ryan Dancy once said that 3.5 was half an hour of fun condensed into half an hour. Oh, wait a minute, I got that wrong.
I think it's
Half an hour of fun condensed into 4 hours.
4
That's
hours.
it.
Condensed into 4 hours. Right.
I had it backwards.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty accurate. And I think that with 5th edition, we're really kind of back to kind of where we were with, 1st and 2nd edition. The game moves along. And I think with the tabletop we're using, the game's going to move along even better.
Mhm.
So
Give us some role play opportunities instead of rolling dice opportunities, right? Yeah.
well, either that or just
Or
lots
both.
of combat.
Lots of combat. It is the Temple of Elemental Evil. So yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think that we're kind of set
Okay.
for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So we should probably go ahead and sign off. So we'll go ahead and go in reverse order. And Dan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your character, and well, go.
Yeah. Well, my character's name's going to be Balin. So I've got a great picture I'm going to upload for next week. So when we get together again, I've got like the perfect picture for him. So I've scoured the internet and found a nice little picture that totally envisions my character. Yeah.
Send that to me and we'll actually put it on the tabletop.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So Valen's going to be, like I said, a little bit shy of the outside world, but once he gets to know you and trusts you, he will like give his life for you, no fear. Very loyal. It's going to be fun, and I think he'll get along with the other characters. Hopefully, build a bond and go rescue Mom.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Kat.
Well, I'm Kat, and I'll be playing the cleric. Don't know what race she'll be yet. No clue. I already know her name's going to be Finnegan.
It's not a
Don't know
dragon.
why. It just struck me, and that's what I'm going to go with.
Cool. Will she be holding awake?
I don't know.
Did anybody catch that? Okay, I'm not.
Yeah.
That was the name of James Joyce's final novel, where he
Okay.
mixed in English and German in strange ways, and it's
Hmm.
very, very difficult to read. Anyway. Okay, Doug?
Yeah, so be playing Delilah Thorne of the House Thorne. Of course, you all know her. At least that's what she assumes. And she will be she'll be a warlock, human noble. She'll be a lot of fun to play. You guys won't like her very much, but she'll be fun.
Very cool. All right, and I'm Darren Drader, and as I said before, I'm the DM. I'm a full-time freelance professional game designer who's worked for most major publishers and is still looking to work for others as well. So if you're looking to hire somebody, talk to me. You can also find stuff that I am selling directly through Darren Drader Designs at DriveThruRPG. So that said, we'll be back in about 2 weeks with probably about a 3 to 4 hour session. So
I'm excited.
we will see you then.
Hopefully, we live through session
Thank
1.
you, everybody. Yeah, I hope so. First level. We might not. You never know. All right. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah, thanks, Darren, for
Thanks,
inviting
yeah.
us.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm so excited.
Glad to
Yeah,
have
me
you.
too.